Good morning, Shavua Tov to everyone. It's good to be back in studying after a longer break. Yeah, we're very happy to be back in the studying. We will continue actually something we finished with. So it will be like only a kind of closure for the kosher sessions that we have been through. And we will start new topics very, very soon. I want to apologize in the name of Moshe David that always tries to be here. He couldn't be with us today. So I want to apologize, but we will see him. We will see him in the from now on. The lesson today will be a little different than lessons we normally have, because normally we try to take a topic and explain the background of it and how it goes to practical things and the idea and so on. Now, the topic of this lesson is kosher lists, okay? So we're very much on the most practical level. And I try to base it on the things we have studied about what is kosher, what is not kosher, what is mixed between kosher and non-kosher, how do you kosherize things, and all the other things that we studied before the break. So we won't go today deep into the background of everything, but we will really much try to speak about what does that mean for me in the Nordic countries when I want to keep kosher. How do I relate to what is called kosher list? How do I relate to things that are not on the kosher list? And things like that. So I'll try to explain the background, how it works in practice, how important it is to check things on the list and so on. But I'll also add that I really, really want you to ask questions, to say things, to doubt, that it will be even more than normally a conversation, because sometimes I think, because I'm one of those who make the list, that, oh, that everything is clear, it's all there, but you that use it will say, we don't understand anything. So the feedback we get and the guidance you need is very important. I'm also working on the new kosher list in Norway now, so your feedbacks could actually have a practical importance for me to write things in the so things will be even more clear. Okay, but I want to start before we start speaking about kosher lists. I want to start to speak about the topic that is called kosher certification. Okay, something that is certified as kosher. Do you find things like that in the Nordic countries? Certified kosher products?
Sometimes.
Okay,
Yeah.
give me examples where we could find certified products.
In Malmö, they have started Costco this summer.
Yeah.
So they had quite a few. They had more of the kosher certified.
And how do you know? I ask things that probably most people here know the answer about, but how do you know that something is kosher certified?
It has one of those symbols with that is like globally known, I guess, as kosher.
Yeah, so we have a lot of kosher signs. That means that there is an organization that is checking this production, and based on that, they give them a certification that gives approval for the company to label their product as kosher. Okay, and then we will take up a product and we'll see it has a kosher mark on it. That's normally a very reliable way of saying, I don't need to think so much, I don't need to check too much, I don't need to compare. It says on the product itself that it's kosher, I just buy and use. Okay, of course, it's important to know which question do we have if something is labeled as kosher, still have. Which things do we still need to check? I'll ask you a lot, so you have to participate.
If it's
If not, it'll take a lot of time. Yeah.
if it's parve or milk or
Okay, great.
whatever.
So the question which status it has, okay? And they can have different statuses. One is parve. Normally when it says, it either says parve under, or it comes without anything, and that means it's parve, okay? So for example, I'll use the most known and most used kosher symbol, that is the OU, okay? You could find it very many places. The OU, if you only have an OU on the product, it means that it's parve, okay? They won't have a dairy or milk product without telling us on the mark that it's OUD. You have a D beside it, and then you know that it's milk. So without the D, you know it's not. They also have OU meat. We won't find a lot of meat products in stores, but then it will say it's meat, of course. And you even have OU fish. Why do we need to know that something has fish in it? Why is that important? Anyone wants to help?
Because there are kosher and non-kosher fish.
No, but it says OU fish, so it's a kosher. It's kosher fish, but it tells us that in this product you have, it could be fish oil, it could be other things that are connected to fish. Why is that important? It's kosher, and the fish is part of it.
Because
Serve it with meat.
Yeah, so we don't mix fish and meat together. It's not like milk and meat, but we won't put, it's not based actually on kosher, it's more a tradition from Talmud, saying it's dangerous to put on the same plate or in the same dish, meat and fish together. So even if it's not based on kosher, it's still a Jewish law or tradition not to mix fish and meat together. And because of that, we need to know that it has fish in it, and then we don't know not to mix it with meat. I won't go deep into that, but also makes like you could go to a kosher place, a kosher hotel in Israel, and you have a big bar, and you could take what you want. And there you have the fish, and you have the meat, and you take the fish here, and you take the meat here, and you mix it in your plate. That's not allowed, okay? So even if something is kosher, we still need to know our traditions to use the kosher in a proper way. Yes, Pauline.
I just wanted to follow up on what you just said. So when you say it's more like a tradition, do you mean it's a minhag more than halacha?
It is a minhag because it's tradition. It's based on, if I want to go to, you could read about it later, but it's, the Gemara says that it is sakanta, it's dangerous. Some will take it towards it's like how we say Norwegian overtro, like you have this thing that if you do that, some dangerous things will happen. But it has become, there are a lot of things like that in Talmud that not become a tradition. You have stories about people who didn't drink anything in singles, only in pairs. Or no, only singles, not pairs. So yeah, you could drink either 1, 3, 5, but not 2 or 4, because they thought it was a bad thing. And that's customs that were in the time of the Talmud, that are written in the Talmud, and they have discussions about it. Sometimes they even laugh with each other about it. You find in, but some of these traditions have become very strong traditions that we follow, and in sometimes even traditions are even more important than the halacha. And so based on that, we could say that it's a minhag, yeah. But a minhag that is very rooted, that we don't do, okay? We won't save, no kosher organization in the world will accept serving fish and meat on the same plate, even if it's not a kosher rule based on what we studied, because there is a tradition not to do that, okay? So that's, for example, fish. There even is a tradition that some Sephardic Jews have not to mix fish and milk together, okay? So that's important to know that it's fish, okay? And that's why in many things we find OU fish. Not very much, but we could also find that. We also have OUP. What is that? it has a P beside the OU. What would that tell us?
Kosher,
Okay.
Kosher.
Pesach.
Yeah, Passover. Okay. So in OUP, we'll say that it's Passover. Don't mix it with parve. Okay. Some people will mix it because they have OUD, that's dairy, and then OUP will be parve. Okay, of course, if it says OUP without a D, then it's also parve. But you also have OUP/D, and then it's dairy and Passover. Okay, so there are these signs of kosher organizations that we could find on the product, and we need to know how to see them and how to learn what they tell us about the kosher status of the product. What more do we need to check in addition to what I said when something is on it?
We found like a mint chocolate here in a shop in Malmö that said kosher, but it was not one of those normal signs. So we asked Natan, the rabbi we had here, and he and it was not qualified. Like it was not kosher to eat.
Yeah.
So maybe to ask, like if you don't recognize.
Exactly. Which kosher organization is it? Who stands? Even some people just put a K on. There are many times a K. And the K says it's kosher, but doesn't tell us who said it is kosher. Many times it's okay, but we don't know. Okay. And as you said, there are some, it's not very normal, but there are some few kosher marks that not everyone rely on. And it's not because we don't we think that people are lying to us, but sometimes they have totally different kosher rules. Okay, there are conservative kosher signs organizations in the US. They based on a different halachic tradition that is not the Orthodox tradition, and they will accept things that maybe we don't accept. Okay, sometimes they will be even more strict, but that's normally not a problem. That will also be correct between countries and things like that, because we have different, every kosher organization have their set of rules that they follow. But just to say, it's very rare that we will find something with a kosher mark, and that kosher mark is not available, is according to my opinion, something that you shouldn't rely on, but you have to check it. Okay, there will be maybe 5% of the kosher marks that we either don't know who he is, or we know who he is, and we follow a little more strict line than what they follow. Yes, Anushka? I think you're muted, or I don't hear anything, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Because when I travel and I order kosher food, I often get the one that's called glatt kosher. So I was just wondering if you could give a few words what the difference is between ordinary kosher and glatt kosher.
Okay, very good questions, and you have it also kasher lemehadrin and glatt kosher. I'll be a little critical to the concept. Okay, I'll say what glatt kosher actually is. And we won't go. I don't think we have studied that, but in the rules of eating meat, there is a very strict rule of not eating meat from an animal that has been sick. Okay, based on that, there are different traditions after the shechita of how to check, or if checking, that the animal has not been sick. And one of the things is checking the lungs, to check that there isn't anything in there that could tell us that there was a sickness in and they have to be totally glatt, okay? As we say in Norwegian also, okay? They say halak in Hebrew, basar halak, okay? In that, there are also different ways of what glatt kosher is. There's a difference between the Ashkenazi glatt kosher and the Sephardic glatt kosher, or not eating glatt kosher. Many people have a tradition not to eat meat, even kosher meat, if it's not glut. Kosher meaning this special check of the animal or the lungs of the animals after the slaughter. Okay, that is the base of the title glut kosher. Okay, until here I don't have any criticism because that's actually the rules. Okay. And there are people who have very different halachic traditions of how strict to be with meat. So if you have someone who tells you, oh, this meat is kosher, but not glut kosher, so I don't eat it, it's totally reliable. It's a different tradition of having glut kosher. I asked, for example, for the trying to get to the kosher store in Oslo, glut kosher. When you already buy, it's better that it's glut kosher, but we don't have it in all kinds of meat. We get a lot of meat from Strasbourg, that is a very known and reliable kosher meat production, but they have glut and they have not glut. Okay, so that's why it's important to know what you follow, and based on that, to know that even if something is kosher, it doesn't mean it's glut kosher. Where's the problem? The problem is that the glut kosher became, because of that, a name for very much kosher, okay? Or in Hebrew, you say, kasher lemehadrin, okay? Those who are especially strict with things. And it's either kosher or not kosher. It can, of course, it's either glut or not glut. So when it comes to meat, but if you see chicken glut kosher, that's weird, because it's not relevant in chicken in the same way. And if you see other kinds of parve food saying it's glut kosher, that it's not relevant. It's relevant for meat. But sometimes when kosher organization or people want to say that it's very, very much kosher based on all the rules, they'll use the term kasher lemehadrin or glut kosher. That is actually not from there. Okay, that was a short answer for a very good question.
And why is it not relevant for chicken?
Because you don't have the same check. It's all big animals. It's not relevant.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah. So the idea of checking that it's glut is not relevant in chicken. Or fish, but fish doesn't have the slaughtering in the same way. Yeah. Okay, so we said that we have to understand, first of all, is it a reliable kosher organization? That's number one. And number two, we have to check what if there is a special status around this product based on what's written on the kosher. We should sometimes also check something I didn't say, if someone is fooling us. Okay. Now the chance that someone will come to a store in Malmö and change to have a kosher mark on a product so that the millions of Jews who live in Malmö will buy it, I think is very small, okay? It's kosher marked for something else, but it's only already on the product, and we are very happy to get products that are normally imported that have the kosher mark because it helps us to keep kosher. But there are places where having a kosher mark on the product will be a big, big benefit, okay? So for example, important that is, I'm checking all the Orthodox Union plants in Norway. And one of the things I'm sent by OU to check is not only that the factory is kosher and everything is according to the agreement we have with that production, but also that they mark only products that are approved with OU. So if they have a new product, instead of 200 milliliters, 250 milliliters of a product, then it has to be approved in their lists, okay, because they're very big, that the Voss water, 250 milliliters, is also on the list that they can have the OU on it. And if it's not on the list, it's a problem. The reason is that the OU tries, and I think they're very good in that. I don't know of many other kosher organizations to be very open and help that everyone could help checking that no one is just putting an OU on the product and saying it's kosher and who will know. So everyone could go into the website of OU when they have a product with the OU, write the name of the product and to see if that product is on their list or not. And if you find a product that a name of the product and an OU and it doesn't come up on their list, then you send in a complaint because then it normally will say that someone used their label without approval. Okay. Now OU are very, very strict with this and very good at that, but not everyone is. I can tell you from my own kosher, we give also from Oslo or from Norway kosher certification, and we are not as strict on every name. What we do is we write the name of the production, the place of the production, and which products they could sell, but then they could sell it with many different names. So I could produce smoked salmon, and I could call it 20 different things when it still comes from my production. It could be called best salmon in the world. It could be called first prize or co-op, or in the States it could be called what do they have, Trader's Joe, or it could be called Super Sal in Israel. Many different names on label, and it's produced in the same place that it's certified. Okay. And we have a way that we check that all the things that are certified by this company are okay. But it's somewhere in the middle, someone who wants to lie should check it. So I get often questions with a picture that says it's your certification. Is it correct? And then I check it and I say, yes, it's okay. But there could be problems, okay? One of the problems is that a place that was kosher still have their packing things that have kosher on them, and after they finished having certification, they still use the same packing thing that says kosher because they don't want to throw it. But that's a problem because then they're telling people that it's kosher certified and it's not certified. So even problems like that could happen. And I have been seen in Israel in a cheese shop. They were selling our Norwegian brunost from Tina, okay? And the brunost is actually on our kosher list, so it's kosher, but it's not kosher certified. And they wrote that there is someone from France that's kosher certified it. That could be correct, okay? But they also wrote that it's Chalav Israel, okay? Chalav Israel means, if you remember, I don't know, that it has, when you say something is Chalav Israel, it means that it has been observed from the milking of the cow, okay? And I know the production of the brunost, it's not possible. It's not possible to make it Chalav Israel. It's used, you have the wheat that they use. The wheat comes from another production, and Tina is huge. And we work with them, so I know how complicated it is to follow everything in a very big company. So I know that it was not Chalav Israel. So I had to send a complaint to the rabbinate in Israel saying, here someone is making a false kosher mark on a product. I told them it's kosher, but it's not certified by the one they say they certified it. And if they say they certified, they lie, because it can't be Chalav Israel. It can't be. Okay, so that's an example of someone who, and then they took their kosher certification from that shop for some months, I don't know, based on that they sold something that is not correct. So as I say, there could be things, even if something is marked kosher, we have to use our sense of mind to double check and to see, is it correct or not? Yes, Tikva.
I have a question about the people buy in Turkey, products from Turkey.
Yes.
I don't have totally confidence. Can you tell us about this?
If a product from Turkey has a kosher certification, you could totally rely on that.
But some
Yeah.
people buy it, they don't have the certification.
That's something else. Then we'll speak about the kosher list. Now I'm still speaking about certification, okay?
Okay.
All the big organizations I know are working in Turkey, are going and checking companies in Turkey. Turkey has a big Jewish community with a very reliable rabbinate that also are certifying places. So products from Turkey with a kosher certificate are totally reliable, okay? If you ask about other kinds of products from Turkey, then we'll come on. Then I'll speak about it. I hope we'll come to it later. So now we only speak about certified things. Now, that's things that have a kosher certification. That means someone is going regularly checking the whole production in that place, and based on that is saying that it's kosher. Now we're going on to our main topic of today, that we have kosher lists, according to my knowledge, in all the Nordic countries. They're very different, but we have kosher lists. And could anyone tell me or everyone what is the difference between a product that is in a kosher list and a product that is kosher certified?
They don't have the stample.
Okay, so they don't have the stample, that's clear. We don't see it on the product that it's kosher. We have to take the list, see the product,
look.
and then we know that it's certified. Okay, but if we go deeper, what is on the kosher status of this? Is there a difference, or is kosher kosher, not kosher, not kosher?
No, it's not kosher, but and in some places I think it's even difficult. For example, here we have some marmalades that all of these are kosher. But for example, in Italy, sometimes you have a marmalade and then specific is written just for this factory. So they don't have kosher stample. Then you need to check the marmalade that is on the kosher list, and you need to check from which fabric is coming this one, because otherwise it's not even kosher. So
okay,
it's
it
like
could be kosher, but it's no one approved it as kosher. Okay, so one of the things we will try to do is we can't know all the kosher products in the world. Okay, there are many kosher products in the Nordic countries that are kosher and are not certified as kosher and not in a kosher list. Of course, there are many products who are not kosher. Okay, so the way when we want to know that something is kosher, we have to know that someone has checked it. And then it's either certified or on the list, okay? But there is a difference of how we check things for kosher certificate and how we check things on the list. If anyone wants to try to explain what the differences could be, I will add, of course, but I want to give you the opportunity to start before I speak too much. Yes.
I'll give it a try. So when a product has a kosher certificate, it's not only the ingredients, but also the manufacturing that has been overseen and approved to give this kosher stamp. And if something is just on a kosher list, like we have here in Norway, it just means that the ingredients itself are a kosher. Or like not non-kosher. So, but it doesn't say anything about the production. But then I guess if you put it on the kosher list, you kind of have made some inquiries about the production as well. For example, in the bakery, even if the ingredients are kosher, you still need to check if the oven has been used for anything that had ham. Let's say like small pizza slices, if they've been used in the same oven, it doesn't matter if the bolle itself only has milk and wheat and whatever, because then in the production it has already been contaminated by something non-kosher.
Yeah. So you change your mind while you're answered.
Yes, I did. I argued with myself here, so basically I don't have the answer.
Okay, good. You're right. We are checking the ingredient lists, but we also have obligation to understand how things are manufactured, to see that there isn't anything in the way of productions that could make this product non-kosher, okay? Because it's not enough to know that all the ingredients are kosher to know that the product is kosher, because as Anushka said correctly, there are places where you have kosher productions, kosher ingredients going in a production line, and just now, actually before, it's more important, you had non-kosher things on the same line, and then you have to check if it affects each other, if there is a wash that could be kind of accepted as a koshering. Sometimes you can, but normally it's very hard to rely on that. So normally we will not accept if there is a kosher line with a non-kosher thing. A non-kosher thing doesn't mean sometimes it could be it's a bigger ingredient. Sometimes you could say, okay, this ingredient is not kosher, but it won't affect the whole production. Okay, best example for that is gelatin. Okay, gelatin we won't accept in our products normally. Or totally, I don't know about in the past people would accept were sometimes accepting gelatin, but we won't do that. But if a company has gelatin in a cake, it won't affect everything that goes in the same production. But if they have non-kosher cheese or of course any animal oil or meat or other things, of course that affects very fast the whole production line, that won't be accepted. So yes, for a kosher list, we have to know better what is produced, what the ingredients are, and how they're produced to accept that they're kosher. And in that way, it's a little similar to a kosher list, actually, to a kosher certification. Okay, so we find something similar. I also want to find the differences. Nina, yes.
Boker Tov. I wonder, this yellow cheese from Synnøve in Norway, do you have any kosher shop? But I saw behind on the backside, it stands exactly the same in the shops. What is the difference? Because we have only to buy in the kosher shop.
The difference is that a hard cheese needs observation of the production, a special observation of the production to be kosher. Okay, so the cheese that we find in the kosher store the production of the cheese has been observed by us, and then we get the cheese. So even if it's the same name and it's in their packages, the one you find in the kosher store is certified, and that's actually certified and kosher. And the same product finding in the normal stores is not certified and is not kosher. So it's a very good question, because we can find the exact same package, but that is certified in when it comes to cheeses, and the second one is not. Okay, we have other kinds of cheeses that are not certified but are in the kosher list, and because of that, we could go and buy them in the stores.
I mean, it stands exactly the same behind. So it's a special party you get in the kosher shop.
We send someone to the factory several times a year, and only the productions they have been seen. They actually also put the rennet themselves inside the mixture of the milk or before it becomes cheese, and then they're seeing the cheesing of the cheese, and from that batch we get to the kosher store.
Oh, the batch. Okay, thank you.
That has been observed, and because of that, it's certified. It's actually kosher certified in that way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like these questions are important because they could clarify many things. I'll say something about the kosher list, and if you have questions, really continue asking. It's important. Kosher list is not the same as certified because we don't have an agreement with the company that they have to give us any information about anything in the factory, and that we could for any time come and observe them. Every plant, and we have 50 plants in Norway, for example, that are kosher certified by us. I could, for any day, come there at 7 o'clock in the morning, knock on the door, and they have to let me in, okay? Because they're kosher certified, and it's an agreement. They ask us to certify them because they export it and they want to have a kosher acceptance on their level. So here we do them a service, okay? In the kosher list, it's turned up down, okay? We want to know about the product that they're kosher, and they give us service by letting us in to see the production line, by give us information about the production line and other things, and by giving us information about the background of any ingredients that we could check if they're kosher, okay? Meaning that we don't have the same agreement. We can't visit them every year or twice a year or 5 times a year or even once every 2 years. It will be impossible to go and check every production in Norway so often, okay? So we have to gather the information. They normally open the door for us, and one of the funny things of being a rabbi in a Nordic country is that I go to the supermarket and almost anything I could buy, I have seen with my eyes how it was produced. And it's a little fun, it makes things very interesting. But I've seen them, and then later I just get updates, or to ask for updates and so on. So they don't, they're not committed to us. It's more we ask them for a favor to give us the information. So in the kosher list in Norway, for example, we have chips that is called Kims that is kosher. We have chips called Sørland chips that is kosher. And we have chips called morud that is not kosher. And everyone asks me all the time, what is the difference? Why isn't morud kosher? And the answer is very simple. We sent them several emails that they didn't answer. And we asked to come there and they won't. So we're not user-friendly to let us in. So we said, okay, so we have the places that give us information. That's enough chips for a lot of Jews if we eat a lot of Kims and Sørland chips. Does that mean that morud is not kosher? It doesn't mean that. Well, we haven't checked it. And in chips productions, you have sometimes aroma that is made from meat, okay? You have, in Nordic countries, you have something that is called bacon chips that they make in the same places. They could make them in the same place where they steak or fry the chips. They could fry bacon, okay? And then you have to know, is it possible at all to accept it? Or do they have routines of cleaning that makes us comfortable to eat what was fried in the same place as bacon, okay? You won't find it in the packages, okay? But that's things we have to check to know that something is kosher, and because we haven't been able to check morud in Norway, it's not on the kosher list, okay? That's an example of why things are in the list or not in the list, and it's a totally different frame than a kosher certificate. And now I'll ask you, what's better? Is it better a kosher certificate, a place that is committed and that we come regularly to check, or is it better with a kosher list? Which one is on a higher level?
I think I mean, for life itself here in the Nordic, for me, the kosher list is the most important. Because otherwise life would be very hard to eat at all.
No, but I'll ask you, you find a product with a kosher certificate and you find a product with a kosher list. Which one is more reliable?
I would say both.
Both? Okay. Why? The kosher certificate has are committed to follow kosher and we come and check them regularly. Why is that as reliable as a kosher list?
Because I trust the person here in Sweden who made the list.
But you don't need to trust him only. You also have to trust the information that someone gives him from a factory.
Yeah.
Okay, so he could do everything according to the best knowledge and everything seems okay, but he's not visiting the plant twice a year, so there are many things it's hard to see.
Yeah, so
we already have
someone else has to answer that.
Yeah, but Sarah, you remember that once there was one product with a fake stamp. So we usually need to check with Nathan anywhere, anyway.
Yeah, so I'll go in the direction Paula takes us. In many ways, the kosher certificate is much more reliable. Okay, there is a routine of checking the place. They're checking all the ingredients, come and checking it and seeing them. But there is also something that makes the kosher list a little more reliable, and that's maybe because of the few number of Jews in the Nordic countries. There is no interest for someone in a quality department to give false information, okay? There's no one in the selling department telling them, we need it certified to sell so many tons of product, okay? It's a service they give the Nordic countries to people to get to know about their product, and based on that, to feel comfortable to buy them. So they don't have the interest, okay? And in the second way, if I am certified, kosher certified, it means that it's good for my company, it's very good for my company to get the kosher certification, because it helps us sell the product somewhere. And then there is a small danger of me telling half of the truth, making a show to get the kosher. When that is said, it's important to say that it's very, very, I'll say something I don't like to say, but a non-Scandinavian to do that, okay? I got once a question from a rabbi in the States showing me a certification that's from the Nordic country. Some things looked weird on it. And he asked, could it be that the company has like manipulated this certification? My reaction was, I can't see anyone in Scandinavia doing something like that. We have to check it. And in the end, it was a rabbi who made the certification who made a little mistake. Just in the writing, it happens, okay? So my first reaction was, I can't see someone in a sales department in a Norwegian or Finnish or Swedish, I'll also say Danish, that we could say a company that will manipulate a kosher certification for something. But it could happen, and we also get certification from other countries. So in that way, it's important to remember that the kosher list has a strength by that the companies doesn't have any interest, or almost don't have any interest, of lying here. So there is a stronger thing for a certification, but there is also something that makes us having an understanding of relying on the kosher list. When that is said, I want to add to say that there are many things that I will never accept for a kosher certification that I will accept for a kosher list, okay? And that means that there are many halachic questions where we are much more strict when it comes to kosher certification than kosher list. The reason for that is that when I certify something, I tell everyone who sees that that's under my observation, and it's a true line of the kosher. And it doesn't go only to my community in Norway. It goes out to communities out in the world that have different rules that they follow. And because of that, when you give a kosher certification, you have to treat yourself in a level that will match any mainstream and a little above a halachic keeping kosher person. And that means that you have to be much more strict. I'll give examples, okay, to see where there are differences, like in the content, okay? When we check for kosher certification, I'll always be much more strict when it comes to questions around what's called bishul akum, like something that is cooked by a non-Jew, okay? We can't accept it on the kosher list either, but I'll use a more liberal frame of halacha when it comes to kosher certification, to kosher list and kosher certification. A known thing that is actually all difference between the kosher list in the Scandinavian countries is the red color E120, okay? Karmin, okay? It has a lot of halachic answers saying that it's kosher, but many people don't accept it, okay? So because it's a discussion in the halachic world if we will accept it or not, we have traditionally accepted it. There are also kosher certifications in the world that accept it, but we will have accepted for our kosher list. It's important for us that things will be kosher. We don't want to take out all the ice cream that have a little red colors because we want kosher to be available for our community. And then we can choose a more, I say liberal, it's not liberal, not orthodox, of course, but it's we accept the opinion that saying that color is kosher, okay? And I won't go into why it's kosher. It will take us 15 minutes to explain why some say it's kosher and some say it's not kosher. But the E120 is then accepted in Norway. I think it's also accepted in Denmark. It's not accepted in Sweden. So it was a very known question is why the Gotoblanet, the red Gotoblanet, is kosher in Norway and not kosher in Sweden. Okay, so anyone who wants to taste it from Sweden, come to the border, go over the border to Norway, eat it, and go back to Sweden. It's the same product, exactly the same product, but it's to explain why we have different lines. Even I will say in the kosher productions, okay, we spoke about that we also check how you produce. But without going deeply into the details, there is something that is called steam that is used in the productions, okay? Steam is normally used to heat up products, okay? But it doesn't go in direct contact with the production itself, okay? So if, for example, you have a steam, cooking steam, and it sends steam or hot water throughout the company, and when it heats like in the tanks, it goes in a double what's called frame around the tank, and in that it heats the product without being in any direct contact, okay? And then to not throw out the energy that is in the hot steam that now has became water, we send it back in a condense to the main source of the steam because it's still hot and it helps us to preserve the energy, not us, the companies. But then we have a steam that was in the side of a tank, heating up something that is not kosher, going back to the source, and then going out to heat something that is kosher, okay? That is, I would call it checking the steam system of a company, okay? Every time we certify a plant, we check that there isn't a problem there, and if there is a problem, we try to find solutions, okay? We have several companies in Norway that have separate steam systems because we have asked them to do that so that their production will be totally separated, okay? And now it's important to say it's something that doesn't go in any direct contact with the product. But since it's heated up and it's in the two sides of the frame of the tank, some people will say that that is problematic, everything I told now. I never check steam when it comes to a kosher list. There are many people who say that it's not a problem, everything I said now. So for a kosher certification, I will check what I said. When it comes to a kosher list, that's not the production line itself is checked, but we don't go as deep as checking the steam system of companies, that there isn't any crossing between kosher and non-kosher in the steam system. So that's another example where kosher list isn't as strict as kosher certification, but it's important to say that it's kosher, okay? It's not we don't check because we don't want to check. We don't check because we rely on very reliable sources saying that it's not necessary to check it, okay? But when I'm sending something out with a kosher certificate, I don't tell only my community that I believe that you could eat it. I'm eating it myself. I'm telling many people, and then I have to put myself in a more strict level to match as many as possible and their level of kosher or decisions of where to be strict or non-strict. So that's also a difference, but there should be in any kosher certificate, kosher list in the start, an explanation for which halachic decisions this kosher list is based on. Okay, so that we know what we are choosing to use or not use. Pauline, you had your hand a lot. I'm speaking too much, so I'll take it.
No worries. So now you came a little bit on that, but I was thinking, and now it's because I heard so many things in so many like directions from Jewish people, right? How does kosher certificate work in terms of like a Jew owning a company, a Jew being a part of production, and a Jew that is a part of production and eventually owns a company, if the Jew is Shomer Shabbat or not? This
Okay, so
aspect
it's a very good question. I'll give a very complicated and short answer. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
try. I'm not good in short answers, but I'll try. Normally, there is no difference. Okay, if someone, a Jew, owns a company, even if he's religious, if I certify, I have to check. I don't say I'll go to their home and eat everything they serve. But if I certify something, I have to check it. There have to be rules of checking companies. There are some few things where actually the ownership of a company makes makes a little different. For example, cheese production. Okay, the cheese production, if it's owned by a Jew, the way of checking the cheese will be different than what we do, for example, with the cheese in Norway, where we go and send. Actually, it's partly owned by Jews, the Synnøve. It's like a group of investors from the US, and many of them are Jews. So it's actually partly owned by Jews, but not directly. So there, in a place like that, there will be a difference. There's, when it comes to putting things in the mikveh, who owned it before has a meaning. In check of things when it comes to what we said, buying from a non-Jew bakery or something that a non-Jew has cooked, there could be a difference. So there are some few places where there is a difference who own or who makes the food when it comes to certification, but there are very few, and normally it's exactly the same. That was my short, complicated answer. I don't know, was it so very short? Yes, Nina.
Yes, I wonder if a company changed the production, they change something in ingredients or the way they produce it, will they tell you, give you a reaction, or you must check it on your...
So when it comes to a kosher certification, they're obligated to tell in advance about anything they change. When it comes to kosher list, they are not. They can be very kind if they remember us, but they don't. That's why we have to check it regularly. Okay, and we do that even if our list is actually now more than 6 years old in Norway. We always check it also, and if there is a change, if there won't be a non-kosher product on the list, then we'll tell everyone and send out an update. The problem with the kosher list in Norway now that many of the names are not have been changed and so on, so it's a little hard to use. So we are in a round of a new check, but it's not that we have things on the list that we know are not kosher. But what you say is also important, because that's where we want everyone help, because when you suddenly see an ingredient that is normally not kosher on a product, then it's very good to send a question. Okay, we saw that. Is that a change? And then we could answer, no, we have actually checked if this ingredient is kosher in this production. Or, thank you, now we know that there is a change here and we have to do something, okay? So here are the customers of the kosher list products should also help. And that's why in the start of most of the lists, there is a number, for example, a list of E numbers that are problematic. So you could help checking if you see a problem on a product on the list, okay? But as long as they're on the list, they have something called a chazakah, that you could rely on their kosher. Because if something was kosher yesterday and the day before, you can take, halachically, you can take it as a point of that also without checking every time again, it's kosher, okay? But open your eyes and help us rabbis doing a better work, okay? That's important and will help. But you could rely on the list even if they don't have a obligation to tell us. Normally, if they change recipes, also write new recipe on it, and then that could open a question mark for us to check it more closely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we are towards the end of the lesson. I thought maybe to go through list and see, but I think everyone here has seen a list, and if not, just go to the net. They're all there. The list, and to see how we could find things. But I would want to say still that it's important to understand there is a difference between kinds of products, okay? And there, as less knowledge we have, more important it is that we totally rely on kosher certifications or kosher lists. When we get a little more knowledge, we could know a little, it doesn't say in the kosher list that this is kosher, but it's okay to buy it, okay? And now I don't mean very complicated products, but for example, if I see sparkling water, okay, something very simple, could I buy it when it's not on the kosher list or not? How do I know if sparkling water is something that could have a problem? Because I see that many places, also water, have kosher certificates, okay? That means that someone is checking the water. That means that when the water is not certified, maybe they're not kosher. Sometimes we try on the list to say any kind of water or any kind of juice that is from fruit without grapes are kosher. And if it's on the kosher list, we help you to understand, okay? Could we buy any kind of rice, pasta, fresh fruit, frozen fruit? These questions are a little complicated. We try normally to tell on the list. Sometimes there's a gray zone. And if you're not sure, go to the safe or ask, okay? But sometimes we don't know. And then many people do mistakes because they're sure that there couldn't be any problem with this. And without checking, they don't know, okay? And I can tell you there are many places where things could be problematic. And I know it's through the checking of the list, okay? Then you understand that there is a reason why we check. Which products are more reliable, even if they're not on the check or not? It's not the topic for this study, but to say that, for example, I checked for the list now the bakeries that we use a lot, Open Bakery in Oslo, and all the bakery products are very reliable kosher. Okay, no problem. But then I saw something that is not on our list, but is in the shop, and we normally could buy it without thinking, and that's a kind of juice that they make. And that juice is made in a pot where they also make meat, so directly meat, okay? And it's just a juice with a special flavor, okay? So in the next list, it will say that OBS don't buy these kind of juices, okay? Because they are not kosher. We haven't declared them as kosher. We have declared the bakery product as kosher. But sometimes you see something and there is no ingredient there that's not kosher. It's totally kosher, okay? The ingredients. But they actually use the same, it's not pot, it's like industrial pots, if you know, where we have it in big kitchens also. So it's like a big kind of electric pot. In that, they are cooking this kind of juice. And in the same day, they have totally unkosher meat inside the same. Of course, they wash it as you do in kitchens, but that's not good enough for us. So that's an example of something that could be problematic. I'll go over also just to finish, like asking, there is someone who asked me to check, I don't know if you will do it or not because they're in contact, but to check a vegan falafel. Okay. People ask, what could be a problem? It's a vegan falafel. Okay. It's only vegan. Okay. And I will say many times it's not a problem. But just to list some of the problems that could be. We haven't spoken about where the pita is baked and other things that they buy. Where are they baked? Who's checking that? Okay. We haven't checked all the salads they have, if they don't have any balsamic or wine-based products that are totally vegan, but also totally non-kosher. We haven't checked the questions about could we accept the way they cook as something that is a problem of non-Jew cooking for a Jew. There are many things. It could be checked and it could be okay. And who is seeing that we checked it one day and it's okay, and as you asked, they don't change the recipe? Because in restaurants, changing recipe happens much more frequently than production lines that are any change is many months of test and checking and seeing and so on. So I didn't say that in the industry there are many ingredients that could be problematic, maybe more than before, but also the industry is very strict in rules in quality checks. Restaurants are also very strict when it comes to health questions, but when it comes to kosher questions, they're not so keen about it, okay, or checking exactly the background of things. So this is then an example to know that take your own choices. We try to follow kosher strict, but you could go to a place that I'll give an example. A place that only, you have a lot in Holland and in Belgium, you have a lot of places that sell only French fries. Only French fries. They don't cook anything else in the oil. If of course they cook meat and French fries, everyone here understands that's a big problem, okay? But if they only make French fries is only potatoes, what could be a problem? And I'll answer and say, sometimes it's really not a problem. If you actually know that everything that's the only thing they use, it's not a problem. But there's a big problem if you go to Holland and Belgium, and that is that over half of the places that do it use oil from meat. It's much better to have kind of bulks of meat oil they use, because that's the best thing for French fries. And if you don't know that, you don't know how to check. And then not only that you eat something that you think, see, it looks very kosher, but you actually eat meat oil that is, you can't go much more non-kosher than that, for something that looks very nice and normal, and they don't use anything else here. So that's why it's very important to have a knowledge, to know what we are checking, where are the places we actually could rely on the information we get, and where do we have to have a kosher certificate, or at least a kosher list, and where is a place, if there is a place, for flexibility. Anushka, yes.
Yeah, well, one last question, and unless people are not interested, you can also answer that on WhatsApp. But one thing I thought about is, because there are no kosher restaurants in Norway. I don't know about Sweden or Denmark, but then I know that there are a lot of Jews who eat sushi. So I was wondering, what kind of questions do we need to ask this sushi place in order to make sure that we can actually eat the sushi? I mean, obviously no shrimp, but because when I think about sushi, it's cold food, right? So it's hard to transfer the taste. And then usually when they do the rice is made in a special rice cooker, and like nothing else is used in there. But I was just wondering if there's anything else I would need to check before. And obviously, maybe it's, if that's a kashrut question, we can take it another time. But if people are interested,
okay, you come with a good example. It would be very good for us to be able to say this sushi in that place is kosher. Maybe people will be very happy for that. Sushi has, of course, I think more than falafel, a question of cooking by a non-Jew, because it's considered as fine food, and the non-kosher, one of the rules, it has to be something that is served on the king's table. Okay, falafel, maybe they want to have a street food, but it's more street food. Sushi is street food, but also fine food. So I'm not sure that, I think the question about if we can accept it by cook, or it has to be cooked by a Jew, is a question there. In addition, as you said, you have many times kinds of non-kosher fish or shrimps or other things that they cut in the same knives. Okay, if they cut them in the same knives, it's a problem. Okay, normally the leaves the name of it are okay.
Yeah.
And the rice itself is normally, as you said, cooked separately and not together with other things, because the same kind of way of cooking rice. For me, saying that the sushi is totally kosher will be very hard. I would say everyone will take their choices in life, where if and where they do compromises, there could be a place you really want to check, and we see that they're separated and they have a kind of sushi and they don't have any seafood, and they of course don't cook the fish, but also if they cook it's okay because the fish is eaten raw also. So there's so many questions around it, so it's complicated. That's my answer.
Yeah.
But even if it seems very it could seem very or a little easy and uncomplicated, it's much more complicated than we think. That's what we think.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you for asking, because it's important to answer. That's why I wanted the answers, because by questions and answers we understand that we have to understand them.
But there is even vinegar in the rice, I think. I don't know which kind of vinegar they use, but they usually you need to put vinegar to make the rice very.
Yeah, so if they use normal edic that is not from wine, it's okay. If they use balsamic or vin or other kind of wine-based, then it's more problematic. But all the things that have to be checked. That's why it's when it comes to restaurants, it's more complicated. Sometimes if you eat in a breakfast in a hotel, you have a little more things that are easy. For example, one of the things that are easy, it's not as, I don't know, tasty. I won't go into taste, but it's not as feeling as eat. But for example, buying waffles outside, that's easier, okay? Because the waffles that are made in the same waffle thing they only made that, and if the mixture is kosher, then it's kosher, okay? So that's a kind of thing that you could sometimes buy outside in a cafe that will be kosher. It's not on the kosher list, but I would say that you could rely on that, okay? And if they heat it in the oven, then it's not good, but you don't heat it in the oven if you want it to be good and fresh. So that's an example for something that is heated outside that you could eat sometimes in a breakfast in a hotel or in cafe places. Yeah. Okay, we haven't answered all the questions. The goal of today has been to go a little through understanding the idea of a kosher list, how we check them, how we use them, and also by that speaking a little about kosher certification, what we find in the stores and how we use them. So by me trying to explain and by your questions, I think we have had a nice round that doesn't go into all the details, but I think put a nice frame of how it is. It helps us to be that keeping kosher in Scandinavia is far from mission impossible. It's the feeling of keeping kosher in Scandinavia. I say Scandinavia, of course, meaning all the countries, is in many ways much better than in Israel, where you could just go and buy anything. You feel that you keep the halakha, you choose that, you don't choose that, you understand why you choose that and don't choose something else. So in that way, it's a blessing. It's a very important thing and an important part. And if you have any questions, you see there are many questions, and it's better to ask once too much than once too less. Thank you all. Shavua Tov and Besorot Tovot. Hope the week of good news for Am Yisrael and for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.